Welcome to the channel. Hit subscribe and dive into stories that'll stay with you long after the video ends. Let's begin. The bus jolted as it braked, a sudden lurch that sent a ripple of gasps through the passengers. He barely noticed. His focus snapped instead to the girl who had boarded at the last second, her breath quick, eyes scanning the rows with a kind of frantic calculation. She spotted the empty seat beside him. For a moment she hesitated, just long enough for him to sense something was wrong, then slipped into the seat as though outrunning a shadow. Her coat brushed his arm, damp from the drizzle outside. Cold. She kept her gaze forward, but her fingers trembled in her lap. He saw them tighten, then unclench, then tighten again. Something in her stillness felt forced, like she was holding her breath underwater. He cleared his throat softly. "You all right?" She didn't look at him. "Yes." "A beat?" "No, another beat. I just needed to sit." Bus pulled away from the curb, engine humming through the floor. He noticed her shoulders lowering slightly, as though she felt safer now that the doors were shut. But the tension in her hands, that didn't ease. It only changed shape, became intention. She shifted only an inch, then whispered so quietly he almost missed it. "Don't react." His pulse stumbled. "What?" Her hand brushed his. A small folded note pressed into his palm, warm from her touch. She kept staring forward, her jaw set tight. "Just read it when you can, and don't look at me while you do." His mouth went dry. He didn't move for several seconds, afraid any shift would draw attention, though from whom he didn't know. The passengers around them seemed ordinary students, office workers, an elderly man staring out the fogged window, nothing unusual. But the girl beside him sat too straight, watched too much. She glanced over her shoulder once, quick enough to pass as a nervous tick, but her breath caught sharply afterward. He lowered his eyes, pretending to adjust his coat as he unfolded the note inside his fist. 4 words. "He's following me. Help." He felt the world around him narrow. The humming engine, the muted conversations, the rain streaking the windows, it all thinned into a stretched silence. He risked a glance at her. Her lashes didn't even flutter. She was frozen, waiting. He swallowed. "Who?" She shook her head, barely perceptible. Later. A figure rose from the middle of the bus. Just a man, hoodie pulled low, moving down the aisle toward the front. Harmless in appearance. Yet her body stiffened as he passed, a tension so sharp he felt it through the seat. The man didn't look at them, didn't do anything unusual, but her breath stuttered until he sat down again closer to the exit. The bus continued through the wet evening, the city lights streaking gold and white through the windows. Each bounce of the wheels felt heavier now, more deliberate, as though the bus itself sensed the new weight inside it. The girl leaned slightly toward him, voice thin as a thread. "Please don't let him see the note." He clenched it in his fist, heart thudding. "Tell me what's going on." She closed her eyes. "I will, but not yet." The bus rumbled deeper into the city, the evening air thick with that uneasy quiet that settles when strangers share a space but no one dares acknowledge the tension growing between two seats. He kept his voice low, barely more than a breath. "Is he dangerous?" She didn't answer right away. Her fingers tapped lightly against her knee, a silent code of fear she couldn't hide. Finally she whispered, "I don't know what he'll do if he realizes I'm not alone." He shifted, letting his shoulder angle between her and the aisle. Outside, rain smeared the streetlights into trembling halos, casting the passengers in flickering gold. The man in the hoodie hadn't moved, but his posture carried a strange alertness, like he was listening to every breath behind him. "How long has he been following you?" he asked, barely moving his lips. "Since this afternoon." Her voice trembled. "I tried to lose him, different streets, different buses, but he always shows up again." Another bump in the road jolted the aisle pole, sending a metallic rattle through the bus. The sound made her flinch. He leaned slightly closer. "Do you know him?" She swallowed hard. "Not exactly, but he knows me." Wind gusted against the bus, shaking droplets off the windows in thin, wavering trails. The man in the hoodie rose again. This time he didn't pretend to stretch or adjust his seat. He simply stood, gripping the overhead bar as though calculating the next moment. The girl's breath hitched, a tiny gasp she tried to swallow. He felt her shift closer, the side of her arm brushing his as if instinctively seeking cover. "Stay with me," he murmured. "If he confronts us, I'll talk." She gave a small nod, but her eyes stayed locked on the man. The bus slowed at another stop, doors sighing open to the cold air. A few passengers boarded, shaking rain from their jackets, their chatter rising briefly before settling into the same uneasy quiet. The man didn't sit this time. He waited near the doors, one hand braced on the rail, head tilted just enough to listen behind him. The girl whispered, "He's checking if I'll get off." He straightened slightly, meeting the man's posture with a calmness he didn't entirely feel. "Then you're not," he said quietly. She exhaled, a trembling release of breath that had been trapped in her chest for far too long. The bus lurched forward again, pulling from the stop into thicker city traffic. Lights blurred past as if the night were rushing to keep pace with their fear. And then, without warning, the man turned his head, slowly, deliberately, and looked straight at them. The girl froze, her breath locking in her throat as though a hand had tightened around it. He felt the weight of that stare too, sharp and assessing, a silent question carved into the dim air between them. The man's gaze flicked to the girl's bag, then to her shoes, then back to her face as though searching for confirmation of something he already suspected. The girl pressed her shoulder into his, trying to make herself smaller, trying not to break under that cold examination. Before either of them could speak, the man lifted one hand slightly, as if signaling an unseen decision. In the dark, the man lowered his hand, but he didn't look away, not at first. His eyes lingered with a slow, deliberate weight, studying them, measuring them before he finally turned and stepped toward the back of the bus. Not to sit, not to leave them alone, just far enough to watch from a new angle. The girl's breath wavered. "He knows I'm not alone now." He kept his tone steady. "Good. Maybe that's enough to make him back off." But her head shook immediately, a tiny fractured movement. "You don't understand. He isn't just watching, he's waiting." A flash of lightning split the sky outside, illuminating her face for a heartbeat. She was pale, eyes too wide, hope too thin. He lowered his voice even more. "Tell me everything, start anywhere, just tell me." She clutched the edge of her seat as though grounding herself. "It started this morning," she whispered. "I found a note on my car, no name, no signature, just questions about my routine. What time I leave for work, what time I get home, what route I take, things no one should know." Her throat tightened. "At first I thought it was some sick prank, but then I saw him, the same man from a few weeks ago. He was outside my building, just standing there, not doing anything, not talking, just watching." Another lightning flash, another tremor through her voice. "I ignored it, tried to pretend it was nothing, but today he followed me for hours, every turn, every stop, every bus I switched to." He felt anger ripple through him, quiet, controlled, but burning. "Why didn't you call someone?" he asked gently. "I did." Her voice cracked. "Midday when he disappeared for a bit, I called the police. They said they'd send a car, but I never saw one, and then he showed up again closer, like he knew who I had called." The bus rattled over a pothole, jolting both of them. Far in the back, the man's silhouette shifted as he adjusted his stance. He wasn't pretending anymore, he was watching openly now. "Look," he murmured, keeping his eyes straight ahead. "As long as you're here with me, you're not alone. He can't corner you." She nodded, but her fingers twisted tight around the strap of her bag. "I'm scared he's going to follow me off the bus. He's never gotten this close before." He thought for a moment. "We'll get off somewhere crowded, bright, busy, and we'll stay together until we figure out the next step." But when the bus approached the next stop, something shifted. The man pushed off the back railing and moved toward the front again, his steps measured, almost silent. She tensed instantly. He's getting closer. Passengers barely noticed, but to them every footstep felt like an advancing threat. He straightened subtly, preparing himself. If the man tried anything, he would stand between them without hesitation. The bus slowed, brakes hissed, doors opened. Rain swept inside again, cold and sharp. The man took one final step, close enough now that the girl stiffened, eyes darting to the doors as though calculating escape routes she no longer believed in. Then the man spoke. His voice was quiet, almost calm. "You dropped something." He reached into his jacket and pulled something out. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. The man's hand emerged from his jacket slowly, fingers curled around a small object. Not a weapon, not a threat. A phone, older model, cracked case, screen glowing faintly with a paused video. He held it toward her. "This fell out of your bag," he said. The girl recoiled as if struck. "That's not mine." The man tilted his head. "It was under your seat." His tone was calm, unnervingly steady, as though this moment meant nothing to him. Yet everything about him suggested he had orchestrated it. The bus driver glanced in the mirror but didn't intervene. Rain hammered the roof like restless fingers urging the night forward. The man continued, "You should take it." The girl shook her head, shrinking closer to the narrator as if the phone itself were poisonous. "I've never seen that before." The narrator spoke, keeping his voice level. "Why don't you leave it on the floor?" The man's gaze slid to him, slow, assessing, unreadable. "Because I think she needs to watch what's on it." The girl inhaled sharply, fear tightening the air around her. "I don't want it." The man didn't blink. "You will." He placed the cracked phone gently on the seat in front of them, then stepped back one pace, still holding their eyes like an anchor. The bus lurched forward again, merging into a wider avenue. Neon signs smeared through the fogged windows, splashing dim colors against the man's hood. The narrator leaned close to her. "Don't touch it." "I won't," she whispered, trembling. "He's playing with me." The man moved toward the rear again, taking a position by the center door, hands loose at his sides. But his eyes, those stayed fixed on the reflection of the girl in the bus window. The phone vibrated once, then again. Her breath hitched. "Make it stop." He reached forward, flipping the phone face down with 2 fingers. The vibration stopped instantly, as though waiting for that touch. Passengers around them shifted uncomfortably now, finally sensing something off. A young woman put away her earbuds. A man in a suit stared at the phone, then at the hooded figure, confused but silent. The girl finally spoke, voice barely audible. "He left a phone like that on my car last week." The narrator stiffened. "What was on it?" She swallowed. "Videos of me." Every hair on his arms rose. She continued, tears threatening her voice. "Walking into work, leaving my building, buying groceries. Normal things, but filmed from behind trees or across the street. He never showed his face, just me, everywhere." The bus hit a red light idling beneath a flickering street lamp. The moment stretched thin, the kind that makes people hold their breath without realizing. The narrator whispered, "We need to get off. Next stop." But the girl shook her head violently. "No, if we get off now, he'll follow. You don't know him like I do." "What does he want?" he asked. Her answer came out in a single, trembling exhale. "For me to be afraid." The light turned green. The bus rolled on. Slowly, the man lifted his hand and pointed first to the girl, then to the phone. And this time his meaning was unmistakable. The phone vibrated again, harder this time, skittering slightly across the seatback. No one else moved. No one breathed loudly enough to be heard. The girl's hands clamped over her mouth, her shoulders trembling as if bracing for an impact no one else could see. The narrator whispered, "I'm ending this." He reached forward and flipped the phone over again. A video had begun playing automatically. The screen showed the interior of the same bus, the same seats, the same night, and the girl standing alone near the doors, looking over her shoulder in panic. She gasped, recoiling as though she'd been burned. That's from 10 minutes ago. How did he?" The realization hit both of them at the same time. Someone on the bus had filmed her the moment she boarded. Not earlier today, not last week, now. The narrator scanned the passengers, heart pounding until it landed on the hooded man. He wasn't looking at them anymore. He was staring straight ahead, jaw clenched, breathing hard like someone losing control of something he'd held tight for hours. The narrator stood abruptly. Enough. He moved down the aisle, planting himself between the man and the girl. "What do you want from her?" For the first time, the man looked startled, just faintly but enough to crack the mask he'd worn all evening. Then he spoke. "I've been trying to warn her." The narrator froze. "Warn her." The man nodded once, slow and grim. "She thinks I've been following her, watching her, but someone else has." He raised a shaking hand toward the cracked phone. "That isn't mine. I found it under her car this morning. I tried to leave it where she'd see it. She ran. I followed because whoever planted that has been ahead of her all day." The girl's voice cracked. "You're lying." He shook his head, hood slipping back slightly to reveal tired, hollow eyes. "I'm not good with people. I know how I look. I shouldn't have followed you, but I didn't know how else to warn you." He swallowed hard. "And the videos on that phone, they weren't taken by me. They were taken from angles I couldn't have been standing at." The bus fell into a stunned, fragile silence. The narrator turned to the girl. "Is that possible? Think. Has anyone else been close enough today? Anyone who seemed normal?" Her face drained of color as memory slammed into her. "The delivery driver," she whispered. The one who held the lobby door for me this morning. He said my name even though I didn't tell him. The man nodded, relief and fear twisting together. I saw him near your building. That's why I followed you. Bus slowed as it approached a major stop, crowds waiting under the shelter, bright lights spilling across the wet pavement. The narrator inhaled sharply. We're getting off, all three of us, and then we're going somewhere safe, somewhere public. We'll call the police together this time. The girl hesitated, looking at the hooded man with a mixture of doubt and dawning understanding. You really were trying to help. He lowered his eyes. I didn't know how to do it without scaring you. The doors opened. Warm light flooded in. The girl stepped forward, stopping just long enough to whisper, "Thank you." All three of them exited into the bright, crowded street, fear loosening its hold as the bus pulled away into the rain. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and visit the channel for more real-life stories.